Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brock Beard from lastcar.info coming at you after the conclusion of the Pocono doubleheader weekend. We'll get started here in just a little bit as people start filing in here. We'll certainly have plenty of ground to talk about here between both the Cup Series races as well as the Xfinity and the Truck Series from earlier this weekend. And my goodness, so where to even begin? I guess what we'll start with is really on the Cup Series side between the Saturday race and the Sunday race, the one that just concluded here, the 350-mile event here, won by Kyle Busch under fuel mileage. Very reminiscent, as they showed during the broadcast, of some of the other classic fuel mileage races, the one that was won by Matt Kenseth a few years ago. Don't usually see this too often, it seems, with the combination of late race cautions we usually have, stage racing, and always being a factor in there. But this time around, very interesting strategy working out where drivers were multiple laps short of making the distance and somehow actually kind of making it to the finish versus other drivers that weren't. Who's going to run out, who wasn't going to run out. It looked like there maybe was going to be a situation where things are going to get screwed up at the end there. It looked like Ross Chastain was pulling up to the outside wall there in the last couple of laps. But luckily, NASCAR let the race play out to its conclusion. And we had a very dramatic finish there in terms of lead changes. Good to see. We saw a couple of those things really between the two Cup races this weekend that we haven't really seen. Of course, the sudden reversal of fortune in the last corner that characterized the Saturday race as well was a big theme at the same time. So, yeah, well, let's go ahead and go right into it here. Let me get this. Well, okay, hang on. Let me get this tab pulled up here. So, unofficial results here. Kyle Busch, again, your winner. Kyle Larson in a backup car after a freaky accident there in the last corner with the left front tire going down, stuffing his car in the wall while leading, costing him the win and handing the victory to teammate Alex Bowman. Comes back after damage to the nose of the car, damage that they seem to be struggling to repair during the race, and come back and finish in the second spot. Brad Keselowski in third after coming out ahead of Kevin Harvick. Looked like he was going to be in position to capitalize if those two ran out. Didn't quite shake out for him there, but in a week where he has dominated the news with the stories of him now going to Roush Fenway Racing next year, apparently just short of official at this point. It's going to be, I expected him to be a little bit further off the pace here, but he had a much better showing in the Sunday race than he did in Saturday, and it showed in the results there too. Kevin Harvick, and of course, Bubba Wallace had to bring this out here. Congratulations to Bubba Wallace and the 2311 crew, their first career top five, coming midway through the season there at a track that Wallace himself has, had some challenges at in the past. You think of his bad accident he had with Richard Petty Motorsports a couple of years ago with brake failure, although he's had good runs in Indianapolis before. It could just be that these flat tracks with long straightaways work out well for him. So good finish on that front. And really the other new teams were kind of in the mix too. We didn't see as much out of Trackhouse that we did at Nashville last week, but Daniel Suarez still in the 15th spot. Not a bad performance out of the 99. They started nose to tail, it seemed like, in these races as well this weekend, certainly in the Sunday race. So they're still staying in touch with each other, and the battle continues. So we saw Suarez have the great run at the Bristol Dirt Track. We saw Wallace's run. Again, it's going to be interesting to see who comes out ahead of who when we get to the end of the season or even the playoffs at that point. So many other contenders falling by the wayside there. William Byron in the number 24 there looked like he had the right strategy towards the beginning stages of the race when he was holding off Martin Truex Jr. to get his lap back right before the end of the stage there. I thought it was a great move, and at the time it seemed like that was going to be the winning strategy. He did find himself out front in the final 10 laps, but unfortunately ran out of fuel. Same situation for Denny Hamlin. Seemed like he cracked the whip a little early there. But as Hamlin mentioned in his post-race interview here, that makes just, I think he said, like 3 straight races where he'd had to come down pit road at the last lap. And he mentioned, again, the lug nut issue that he had at the All-Star race when I was covering the action out there. That was what started that. And then, of course, at Nashville, running out of gas towards the end of that. And then this one here, crazy situation there. Unfortunate for him. His winless streak will continue along with Kevin Harvick into Road America's, return to the Cup Series next week. It's actually been several years since they had run out there. But yeah, again, that storyline is going to continue at least into the beginning of the season's second half. And as we count down towards the start of the playoffs there, who could have predicted that at the beginning of this year? Great job by Michael McDowell in this race. After inheriting the outside pole, he didn't have the same fate that Chris Buescher did at the start, where the 17 dropped back and fell back to about the 17th spot, never fully recovered from that. McDowell actually had where was he here? It seemed like he was, he's 17th at the finish in this one, but he was able to lead some laps, get some stage points in the first stage there. Things didn't quite shake out for him in the final run there, but a good turnaround, especially with his teammate and the number 38 there, old Anthony Alfredo, had problems from the very beginning of the race getting into the wall. Very similar to the situation with JTG Daugherty Racing. Great job by Ryan Preece. We've seen a bit of a career resurgence out of him. The beginning of this season, in the first few races, it looked like he was going to be far and away the top open team out there, and even actually contending for a spot in the top 16. Things kind of fell back a little bit, but then, of course, in the Truck Series these last couple of weeks, between the win at Nashville and the great run that he had again yesterday in Pocono, good to see him, able to kind of get his feet back under him. In the 37 car, overcoming that damage they had in the incident with Chase Elliott in the Saturday race to get a top 10 in this one, showing unofficially in the 8th spot there in the finishing order. The back end of the field, this one turned out to be very different from the Saturday race. This one almost went the entire distance of the event. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. dropping an engine right as Timmy Hill was coming in to serve his penalty for not meeting minimum speed. Hill being able to get back out there, and after the car stalled on the track or stalled on pit road, getting pushed back and back out again. Getting the 66 back out on track for a few more laps before falling out. Ended up being the difference because Hill had been multiple laps down. He and Josh Bilicki trading the last spot after Alfredo was finally able to get around both of them in the final stage of the race. But ultimately, Stenhouse with his second last place finish in this month, the first one since our coverage back at Sears Point when he had the wreck in turn one and then blew an engine after that. An unfortunate stretch for the number 47 team. But again, good to see the JTG's team able to get some good performances in with the 37 car. So some things kind of turning around on that sense. Garrett Smithley, Josh Bilicki, and Anthony Alfredo rounding out the bottom five behind Stenhouse and Hill. Eric Jones back in the order. Still some struggles there for the Richard Petty Motorsports team. Jones shown in the 31st spot. Cody Ware and the other Rick Ware team, we didn't see as much of them in this race as we did in the Saturday event. But Ware finishing ahead of Davison. Both of them Ware 1 lap down and Davison 3 laps down in 30th. Ware in the 28th spot. So good run by them. Both of them splitting the Live Fast Motorsports entry with BJ McLeod in the 29th spot and finishing under power. So again, Ware, this being the site of his first last place finish, or one of his first in the 51 car a few years ago. Good to see him turn things around and get a better performance out there coming off of his IndyCar debut at Road America not too long ago. Several disappointing runs from other contenders here. Chase Elliott looked like he was going to be bouncing back from the damage he had yesterday. They actually managed to fix that damage that he had in the starting line incident with Ryan Preece and get back out there. Unfortunately, a couple of incidents with Christopher Bell dropped him back in the lineup there in the 27th spot at the finish. Ross Chastain mentioning him back in 26th after flirting with the top 10 in the second stage. Chris Buescher mentioned him earlier after he inherited the pole with the inversion, ends up in the 19th spot. Kurt Busch looked like he had a good strategy going. He won one of the stages on Saturday and seemed like he was going to be able to keep that momentum going. Unfortunately, ends up further back in the 20th spot there. Interesting runs by a lot of these competitors here, but just good to see a good old-fashioned fuel mileage race again, the likes of which we haven't really seen too often there. So, but again, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll cover all of the events from this past weekend. Decided to go ahead and just do it in the one show here rather than split up with Saturday and Sunday. Did that a couple weeks ago, and I think I did that for Phoenix, and I think it just kind of confused people. So we'll just kind of stick with our one show to sum everything up here. So we have to go back, of course, to the Saturday race here, and what a dramatic event on that. I know that the initial excitement is gone from that already, but certainly bears repeating given what happened during today's race here. Kyle Larson on his way to winning at a track that he admitted in the beginning of the event was not one of his best tracks. In fact, he seemed to struggle quite a bit with the Chip Ganassi effort there. But this time around was on his way to an easy victory. Although it was very, well, easy is not really the best word exactly, because Alex Bowman was absolutely putting up a great fight, holding that lead, and Larson had to be extremely patient to get around him. I think the battle that they showed off there in the final laps was one of the best we've seen this year. A good close, nose to tail battle, trying to kind of work in that advantage. And Larson, unlike other competitors out there, seems to really kind of work very well with this this high downforce, low horsepower package. He seems to have figured it out a bit better than even guys like Kevin Harvick or Denny Hamlin have. You think back to Harvick being stuck behind Joey Logano at Kansas last year. Not the very same case at Pocono, at least here. Larson able to work on Bowman for, what was it, about 13 or 15 laps before finally getting back around him there. But unfortunately, the left tire blows right as he was lapping Timmy Hill. Hill had nothing to do with it, of course. He was actually getting on the access road as the 5 was catching him to make sure he stayed as far out of the way as possible. But by then, Larson had the tire already going down as he came off of turn 2 and going into turn 3, stuffed the thing in the wall, dropped back to the 9th spot at the finish. But Alex Bowman with another sudden reversal of fortune, much like we saw back at Richmond with coming back in that one, and also even the Dover in that same sense too. Taking a win away from a driver that seemed almost destined to win it. But at the last second there, the 48 again pulls off another buzzer beater, and the Ally Chevrolet took the victory yesterday. So that keeps the 5 and the 48 very high in the rankings there as a playoff hunt continues. But Martin Truex Jr. is still in the mix. Truex having a much better run in at least the beginning of today's race than we saw yesterday. Whether or not they were just kind of keeping the inversion in mind after they were far out or of contention, who knows? But certainly played a role in him being more of a factor in today's race when all that shook out. Looking back into the Saturday race there, Cole Custer, your last place finisher, the first of his Cup Series career, the number 41 car. The number 41 we haven't seen finish last at Pocono since Ronnie Thomas back in, I believe, 1985. Custer having a difficult stretch of the season. I thought he was actually having kind of a rough season in general, but it really has just been this summer here. Of course, when you think of Custer, you think of the big accident he had at Coda. You think of the accident he had at Darlington, where just like teammate Eric Almirola had a weird bend in the front of the car after hitting the inside wall in the back straightaway. Both those cars very heavily damaged in that one. But heavy damage indeed in this one with the tangle with Brad Keselowski in the Saturday race. Keselowski was very upfront on Twitter there, saying that, it was his fault misjudging the gap between him and the 41 dropping out at the end of the race there. Ryan Newman with damage as well after spinning out in turn 1. Corey LaJoie seemed to have a solid run going. Unfortunately, got a tangle with Anthony Alfredo, the wreck that sent both those drivers to backup cars for today's race. LaJoie in the bottom 5 there. Timmy Hill and Josh Bilicki rounding out the bottom 5. And indeed, Hill and Bilicki were again significant figures in the last place battle today. At some points, they were trading the spot a couple of times during a lap. Bilicki's crew looking under the hood, and then, of course, NASCAR advising the 66 to keep up minimum speed at several points during this race. Ended up being kind of the tail of the tape. But kudos to those teams for both working their way out of last place and finishing ahead of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. In the final running order. Daniel Suarez finished 13th in the Saturday race there as well. And Bubba Wallace, I think he had a solid, he seemed like he was okay in that one there. Where was he? He was in the 14th spot. So, yeah, right behind him there. So a 14th and a 5th there for Bubba Wallace on this weekend, and a 13th and a 15th for Team Trackhouse. Good efforts on both ends there. BJ McLeod's team still finishing both races under power, 30th in the Saturday race, and further back with the Rick Ware guys in the Sunday race. Let's see. Eric Jones looked like he was about to get the spot there for the inversion, ended up falling out of the 20th spot in the final moments there. But a thrilling and just crazy moment there. We saw a little bit of everything out of Pocono this weekend, and I think that they really have found something with this doubleheader thing. I know it's not the first year we've had it. We had it last year when just about everything had to be a doubleheader to get us to Daytona in August. But of course, with the fans, and kudos to NBC for really drawing a lot of attention to that. I know they kind of went back to the well on that a lot, but really, I think there's so much excitement for people to go back to the racetrack these days and to be there with other fans, be able to enjoy things the way they used to just a couple of years ago. Certainly good to see. And the Pocono group, I mean, man, it made me want to go. I'll tell you that. We'll probably be putting that on our schedule before too much longer. But we'll see. I'm not sure about next year. We got some other things I'm kind of working on here. Actually, for those of you in the Patreon, I was about to actually kind of have an update on kind of my to-do list of things that I'm working on. But I figured, you know what? I was already going to do a newsletter to send out. So that's going to be in a newsletter there, and I'll be sending that out pretty soon. I went ahead and made that last night, and so I'll be distributing that pretty soon. So those of you that are at any level on the Patreon, and if you've had your mailing address in the account, if you haven't already had that, make sure you add that on there so I can send you your copy as well. So, yeah, lots of excitement from this weekend. And we haven't even talked about the Xfinity and the Truck Series races as well. Let's see here. Let me get this pulled up. Oh, my goodness. Thank you for the super chats here as well. Alex Viveros, thank you for yours. Hemrick is the NASCAR version of Paul George. Okay, I'm not sure. I don't know if I get the reference on that one. Choking the big moments. He can't get a win. Riley has 4 top 10s this year. Chase had 9 wins last year. Well, see, there you go. I mean, again, it's an unfortunate situation on that end. I'm sure, and it's unfortunate for Hemrick because, again, they were talking during that Xfinity broadcast today about what great notes he's able to give a team and how much they've been able to improve. And he gets these great runs out there, and just for whatever reason, he's even getting to the point now where he's getting stage wins pretty regularly, but just bad luck from one moment to the next. So an unfortunate deal there on that, but we'll see we'll see if he can turn things around. I mean, we got Road America next week. The road course has been unpredictable. Of course, we've seen Jeremy Clements win his first Xfinity race out there not too long ago. Although that was at the expense of a Joe Gibbs effort and Matt Tifft at the time. We'll see if a Joe Gibbs effort is able to turn things around and stop the juggernaut at the road courses that Austin Cindric has been. He will certainly be one to watch along with Justin Allgaier and the rest of the series regulars during that event there. But yeah, Daniel Hemrick, you just know when he finally does pull off a victory, it's going to be the most exciting thing, and he's going to certainly be reveling in it as much as possible. But we're getting there. It sounds like he's really getting there because like the Mike Harmon guys, bringing out the Mike Harmon shirt here. Seeing them get their top 10 finish last year with Kyle Weatherman. Weatherman did a great job avoiding that very serious accident today with Justin Haley and Ryan Vargas. Again, hope Haley's doing okay, and of course Ryan Vargas as well. We'll talk about him. That was certainly an emotional incident there for him for his own reasons. But again, great job by Weatherman avoiding that incident there. And, again, the Harmon team doesn't have that many cars at their disposal. They still had that theft of their cars from Daytona last year that they're still recovering from. So that's a whole other story on that end. But hopefully things will turn around for Hemrick. And I know a lot of people will be excited to see it. So, yeah, I definitely agree that, it's, whether it's choking or not. I mean, again, it's hard to really kind of throw that in there. I guess you could probably argue certain incidents as one or another, but again, just coming up very close, just coming up short, it's tough. And it seems like every time that some of these guys graduate out of the Xfinity Series into Cup, you got another group that's just right up there to fill those gaps and be the next dominant driver. Chase Briscoe in the Xfinity Series. Now you still have Cindric, and everybody's having to deal with them. And that was certainly the case in the race today. And if you don't have to deal with Cindric, then you still got Justin Allgaier. You still got AJ Allmendinger, and so forth. The list goes on. Whether they're past Cup Series drivers or new talents coming in, and I think the current Xfinity Series field is probably one of the most competitive to be in. And putting on certainly some of the best shows that you're seeing out there. Today's race ended up having kind of a longer stretch at the end, but even then, Ty Gibbs was able to make a race of it there at the end and close up on Cindric, working his way through traffic. So you just never know what you're going to see, and certainly going to be excited to see more of that in the weeks coming up. And Nicholas Gray, yeah, see, you just kind of tags into your super chat. Thank you again on that. Ty Gibbs showing some muscle to Austin Cindric. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, great run by the 54. It'd be good to see if they can land a sponsor, much like Kyle Larson, to see if they can land a sponsor as well. It's those two guys have been certainly turning heads this year, getting the best run that they can. And we'll find out if they can actually kind of work their way up there. But yeah, certainly putting on a good show, and it's been entertaining to see. It'd be nice if he'd be in the 54 even longer and make it a full-time effort. But for whatever reason, their plan has still had Kyle Busch in a lot of those starts, and Martin Truex and some of these other drivers taking over the seat. It seems like they should be able to work something out there to work with this kid. But that's kind of the interesting thing. In the years past, when a driver is really, even wins one race, much less a few races, usually the sponsors are just like there, wherever it's in the Truck Series, Xfinity Series, the Cup Series. We just haven't seen that this year. And, with Kyle Larson, does it have anything to do with what happened last year? Probably. With Ty Gibbs, does it have anything to do with his interview, the ARCA race at Daytona? I don't know. But, I'd like to believe that maybe there's some leeway there that, it's not going to be like that, for that long, because both those guys are just really, really making it work out there and putting on a show. And at the end of the day, these brands want to get seen. If these guys are winning, why not jump on with one of those guys? So, again, it's that's a whole other story there, and it would be interesting to find out more of what's going on with that. Let's see here. Oh my goodness! Thank you for the super chat there, Beast of Metal. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Well, yeah, there you go. You're retweeting my tweets from earlier. Brock tweets, if these guys keep running over each other, they could easily finish in last place. And then right after that, JTG tweets that Stenhouse has dropped a cylinder. So yeah, whether or not it's a situation. If it was one thing causing another, certainly wouldn't surprise me. Although, you could blame me probably for Kyle Larson's tire failure yesterday. I was wearing a Kyle Larson shirt at the time, and my brother was like, "Man, it's like, wait, did you have anything to do with that?" Like, no, it's nothing there. But yeah, it was just kind of, I think, really, Beast of Metal. Yeah, that situation you had with the race today, just had a situation where it seemed like nobody was going to be falling out of the race. I was wondering if we were going to actually have a decent battle between Timmy Hill and Josh Bilicki towards the end, although the minimum speed penalty for the 66 seemed to throw a wrench into that. Didn't quite shake out that way with the 47 falling out. But yeah, just a rough deal for the JTG team. Seems like whenever they're able to get some momentum going, they just have some terrible luck, either a mechanical failure or an accident. We've seen that out of both those cars this year, but especially the 47. So we'll see how things turn around here. The road courses, they can be just as fickle as anything else. But Road America has seen some surprises along the way, and the Cup Series returning there is going to be a big story next week for sure. But yeah, it seemed like pretty quick there right after that they actually had the 47 fall out. Very surprised that it ended up working out that way, though. I certainly wasn't expecting that. So that was definitely pretty surprising. Alrighty. Wait, what? Okay, Beast of Metal, I don't know what you're talking about here, but I don't know. I'm not seeing my thing blowing up here yet. Fuel mileage races. Okay. Nope. I don't know. But crazy kind of a situation there. So we got okay. Well, but then there's let's see. Let's get here. Xfinity Series or the Truck Series. Let's get into those. We kind of touched on the Xfinity Series a little bit. Josh Williams, first last place finish for him since 2017. Crash there for the number 92 car. Unfortunate deal there with Santino Ferrucci into turn one. It looked to me like Ferrucci was just on his way to missing the corner. The trajectory he was taking was so wide into the corner that it seemed like he just kind of clipped right into the 92, and the 92 pulled to the left. It could just be a situation that one was zigging while the other one was zagging. So who knows what happened with that. But a difficult situation there between those couple of competitors. But Williams ultimately in the last spot there for the Xfinity Series. Don't usually see him back down there, but again, when you have a driver that hasn't finished last in that long of a period, it's actually kind of good to actually be able to talk about the career that they've had since then. And in the article, and I just posted it in the late stages of the Cup Series race there today, it seems like he's really been able to turn that program around and have some good finishes there. So kudos to the number 92 team on that. For the good runs they've had. I know they've had some difficult runs. I thought they had one of the best throwbacks at Darlington earlier this year. But the situation with Ferrucci, it looked like, again, the 26 overshot that corner. I think if the 92 wasn't there, he probably was going to go straight into the fence. He still had such a high line there after the impact, probably just from reacting to it there, that it seemed like he was pretty amazing he didn't hit the wall at that point. But unfortunately, Williams, while he did make it to the garage area, did fall out of the race at that point there. So rough deal for him. Rough deal for Ryan Vargas there. Again, a very emotional interview. I think that was really kind of one of the big moments from today, certainly meaning to honor his late car chief who passed away in May. And this is apparently the last car that they worked on, so they had his name on the hood of the car, and then unfortunately get involved in that accident. Rough deal on that. Just know where he could go. I mean, that again, when you have these safer barriers, and it's thankful that they're there. Certainly in Justin Haley's case, I think if you had the old barriers there with that same trajectory, you'd have probably, I mean, it doesn't even really bear thinking, how serious of a wreck it would have been for Haley at that point, as safe as these cars are. But Vargas's thing there, I mean, it narrows down so much with those barriers being where they are, that when something like that happens, it's very hard to avoid it. Kyle Weatherman very nearly didn't, and then Vargas ends up getting collected in that accident there. So an unfortunate deal for both a couple of teams there. And it's good. I think it was a good proactive measure for Haley to sit out the race today, especially with it being kind of a lower funded effort. It's good to see Justin Allgaier back out there in the Cup Series, even just in a few starts, because he's been doing so well in the Xfinity Series. I think he's found a really good home there with GR Motorsports. But good to see him get back in the 77. He was in the top 20 for a bit. I don't know where he actually finished in the Cup event there. Did I close that out? No, I didn't. Here we go. 25th spot there, one lap down. Third car, one lap down for Allgaier. Just 2 spots behind his teammate Corey LaJoie. So great run for him on that. I think that was actually pretty decent to see at that time there too. So a good turnaround on that. Yeah, 25th. There you go. So, but yeah, Cindric with another win over Ty Gibbs. Allgaier in the 3rd spot there before his doubleheader. And Noah Gragson and AJ Allmendinger rounding out the top 5. Daniel Hemrick, mentioned earlier, leads 18 laps and finishes in the 6th spot. But again, the bottom 5 there with Williams, Vargas, Haley, Burton, and Joey Gase in the group there. Harrison Burton, your stage 1 winner, ends up in that one incident there early in the race, drops him out of the event there in the bottom 5. So again, you could have big names or small names in the back of the field. One way or another, that's the way that always kind of shakes out there. But other good runs. One thing I mentioned specifically in the Xfinity Series article, I was very impressed by the run by Jade Buford. On Friday, he ran the ARCA race in one of Andy Hillenberg's cars, the same Andy Hillenberg we talked about in the Rise of the Field fillers a couple of months ago. Getting in that number 11 car, had a top 10 finish, certainly seemed to help. And when they had a tire go down in the Xfinity Series race after contact from Matt Mills, Buford was able to get back out there and still recover a 19th place finish. Not their best run, but not their worst one either. I think that big machine effort is really kind of the X factor out there. Jade in particular seems to really get the most out of these cars on the road courses. But he's been a quick study at the ovals. We saw him do decent for part of the Phoenix race earlier this year. I know he's certainly looking forward to the fall race coming up later this season. But good to see. And also one of the best paint schemes out there, too. It really stands out. So that's good to see. Alex LeBay, Josh Williams' teammate, finishing in the 16th spot. Tommy Joe Martin's in 20th, overcoming a streak of some kind of rougher finishes out there. Brandon Brown in 15th. That's almost disappointing for Brandon Brown at this point. He's kind of working on trying to get up to the top 10 more frequently. Santino Ferrucci, after the impact with Williams, was able to recover and get a 14th place finish there, continuing his streak of top 15s. The Sam Hunt Racing team has really been impressive here this year, but especially with him in it. He's continuing to be picked up right where he left off when Brandon Godovic and Chris Wright and all those other guys are kind of jumping in there this summer. So good to see that going. I don't know how many more starts he has in it this year, but it'll be interesting to see if he can either keep that momentum going or perhaps get even closer to a top 10 finish in that car. Josh Berry, great run for Jordan Anderson's team, finishing in the 9th spot. I almost kind of keep Josh Berry off the list of being a surprising run anymore. It seems like no matter what car he's in, he's able to get a good performance out of it. Sam Mayer seemed to struggle a bit more when he was involved in that incident with Justin Haley in the Xfinity race. But Berry, again, getting a great run out of the number 31 car, just like he's done in the Rackley War effort, in the Truck Series, just like he's done in the number 8 car with JR Motorsports up through last week at Nashville. And even, doing a decent job there in the Spire Motorsports car at Dover. Even after hitting the wall, was still able to get the car back home there without any further incident, at least not that I noticed. So kudos to him on that. Jeremy Clements, I almost put him kind of in the same situation as Brandon Brown. It's kind of more disappointing when they don't get a top 10 there, but very close to it in the 13th spot there for him. Brett Moffitt and the Auer Motorsports team, I'm starting to think the Chris Auer team is really competitive at the Colleague kind of level here. And Colleague racing maybe heading to the Cup Series next year and seems to always be a factor in these Xfinity races. But whether you put Brett Moffitt in that car or most of these other competitors, they're able to get some decent runs. And even their second car, whether it was Tyler Reddick at Homestead, I know Blaine Perkins struggled a bit with suspension issues today, but we've seen some decent runs out of some of these other competitors that have filled that ride and tried to get the very best out of it there. So very impressed by what's happened with that Chris Auer team, because just a year ago, they pretty much were getting a car from BJ McLeod's team, and no offense to him at all, but they were at a point there where they didn't have a backup car. My point in bringing that up. So they come out to Homestead and they had to get another car out there for the double header out there. It was a difficult situation at that point. So they've just grown by leaps and bounds here. And again, it would be disappointing to not see them up in the 11th spot like Moffitt was here or anything like that. So, kudos to that organization as well. It's good to see a lot of new drivers. There's always going to be new drivers coming in there, but it's having new teams, having new organizations and new seats to fill. That's always going to be the real canary in the coal mine. Those are the things that you really need to make sure there's a steady number of it. And unfortunately, there's no way you can really force them to actually participate in it. You just show the product as exciting as it is. You show how open it is to new competitors coming in. And then, once you're in it, it can be real exciting to try to get the very best performance you can get. See how you stack up with these other teams and then work on trying to stack yourself up against other teams. It's a cool thing to think about, really. And there's a lot of programs like, again, the Big Machine team, the Auer Motorsports, and even Jordan Anderson's team that have outperformed perhaps expectations from the earlier part of this year. And in each of those teams' cases, they've brought on guys that are Cup regulars or past Cup drivers, but they're still getting some good runs. Not really the Big Machine team. Well, I guess we'll see. They had somebody else. Did they have Brett Moffitt run that in the Daytona? They had somebody else running it that had more experience, I recall, but I'm forgetting off the top of my head who it was. But again, it still stands to reason that those teams are really kind of improving this year and been another story that's been exciting to follow. So wishing them all certainly the best of luck. Loris Heseman's back out there, the Whelen Euro Series champion back out there, 27th spot for him, right behind Kyle Weatherman and right ahead of Carson Ware. Mason Massey, that's a driver that I've really enjoyed following since that run at Bristol where they missed the start of the race. They spent half the distance to get the car fixed and still got back out there to avoid finishing in last place. I thought that was a fantastic story. I would have loved to be in the garage area to track that as they were working on getting back out there. Bristol might be one we actually do again one of these days. So that'll be kind of one to look at. Let's see. Alex Viveros, thank you again for the super chat here. ThorSport made a huge mistake putting Grant part-time. If GMS and KBM can work out a deal with him next year, watch out. I absolutely agree. Thank you for mentioning that. We haven't gone into the Truck Series race yet here, but certainly Grant Enfinger's run in the number 9 with Cody Rohrbaugh, he has really done like amazing stuff with that equipment. And I think it was probably expected that he would be running further back in the order than he is with the ThorSport entry that he's sharing with Christian Eckes. But actually, even through this past week, he was right up there in the top 10. Unfortunately, he had an engine let go. It dropped him out in the very last few laps of the race. but he could have easily had another great finish in that number 9 this year. And that can only help the CR7 team. As much as I'm not a fan of full-time, competitors, and much less series winners taking over a ride from an underfunded effort, it's certainly given that team more exposure and hopefully improved their sponsorship front. Of course, running the Grant County Mulch sponsor that they've run for so many of Cody's runs. And Cody himself is no slouch. He's been a factor in the last 2 Daytona races. We'll see who's going to be running what here in the next couple of weeks. But that'll be exciting too. But yeah, Grant Enfinger is a real talent. I think ThorSport did make a mistake. I would have to agree of letting him go. And sometimes it takes success to really remind a team of that. But if ThorSport already had their bite of the apple, maybe he finds himself a decent ride at another Chevy team, like you said, like GMS. That could be an opening. There's a lot of shuffling going on there, just like at Al Neese's team too. I think is another good place that he could land at. Look what it did for Ross Chastain's career to kind of keep him grounded and kind of get back into it after the Chip Ganassi Xfinity deal fell through. Look what it did even in the few starts that Trevor Bayne had, or Bailey Curry running for them. And then, of course, now Carson Hocevar, who I seem to talk about every week, and we'll certainly talk about here. The unsponsored truck having another great run out there. So, yeah, definitely another one to look at. Let's see here. Okay, we got that one. Okay, we talked about that. Let's get to the truck series here. John Hunter Nemechek beats his boss yet again. Kyle Busch in the runner-up spot for what apparently is the last race that the Cessna sponsor is going to be with the team. It seemed like there were reports on that in the aftermath of the race there. Rather surprising there. Apparently, Cup drivers in lower series are supposed to bring new sponsors in, but and the Cessna thing is only willing to do that for a couple of years. Well, it's certainly not from lack of performance here, unless they just don't pay him if he doesn't win the race or something. John Hunter Nemechek out there beating him on the track there with another good finish on that one for Pocono. Sheldon Creed in the 3rd spot, Tyler Ankrum and Austin Hill. This was the race that was settled very quickly of the last place battles. I barely had enough time to tweet out that the Pocono Truck Series races are usually settled in the first 3 laps when you had a wreck at the very start of the race with Jack Wood getting turned into the outside wall, collecting Johnny Sauter. Sauter, understandably frustrated in that situation there, dropped him well back in the order. But Sauter was able to continue on while Wood was not. They had a water break, either a radiator situation there or a water line break, rather. But either way, it was dropping fluid on the track, had to stop the truck on the exit of turn 1, rather, and get towed back to the garage area. So an early exit for him. Again, very different than we had in the Cup Series race with Ricky Stenhouse actually having to complete 111 laps. But in Jack Wood's case, not completing a single lap the 5th time that a Truck Series last placer at Pocono has not completed a single lap. So a surprising turn of events in that sense, but not perhaps statistically, but surprising certainly when watching it on the race there. Danny Bone, Bailey Curry, Grant Enfinger after the earlier engine failure, and of course Johnny Sauter rounding out the bottom 5 in that result. Lawless Allen was kind of the underdog that I was kind of featuring in that one in the article on there. He's only made, I think this is only his 4th or 5th start this year, driving for the Riam brothers, who have actually had some good runs at Pocono. Looking over their stats, I was about to say something about it being their best run at Pocono, but that's not really the case. Mason Massey, I think, actually had a good run. The same guy we talked about in the Xfinity series had a good run there. Josh himself has had some good runs. But still, a 20th place finish, I think, is a solid performance, especially if you look at the caliber of drivers that were ranked behind him in that sense. So very exciting to see. And hopefully we'll see some more starts out of him from there, because Pocono is not an easy track to get a handle on there. Carson Hocevar in the 13th spot, 1 spot ahead of Ty Majeski. Majeski making the most out of that part-time ThorSport injury. In and out of the top 10 there, so that's good to see. Josh Berry, like mentioning him in the Xfinity series, 11th place in the Truck Series. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, again, but seeing that 34 there in the 20th spot, that's what definitely stood out to me, and that's a big performance. I don't know how much attention it got. Another one I didn't really mention there as well was Todd Peck getting the 29th spot there. Finally getting to make his first start of the year, had a couple DNQs with the team. The Hull of Vodka entry, had a really nice kind of gecko Hawaii looking paint job there for the Hull of Vodka scheme, but ends up putting it on the number 41 for Dawson Cram. And he actually finished in the 29th spot I'm seeing here. Looks like about the 4th or 5th truck that was 1 lap down. So a decent finish for him, for a competitor that we haven't seen actually make a start all this year. We're just seeing Ray Cicerelli get back out there as a driver. And he was in this field as well, finished back in the order. But good to see the number, actually the 23rd spot for Cicerelli. So actually finishing on the lead lap, so not as far back in the order. But good to see Todd Peck get back out there too. That was a good story to see. And for Norm Benning as well. I actually kind of working on something with Norm right now. Hope to have it on the YouTube channel here in a little bit. But in an interview I had with him, he said he was very excited to run at Pocono this weekend, knowing that it's his home track, and certainly Knoxville coming up, he's even more excited about too. So there'll be plenty more to certainly talk about on that sense too. Yeah, very interesting. Brian Dozit did a decent job with Jim Rosenblum's team, the 34th spot there. The next to last truck that was finishing under power just ahead of Johnny Sauter. But again, not in last place. And the first time that we've seen them since they were 19th at Daytona, on the super speedway rather. So again, Jim Rosenblum's team, you hardly ever not see them at Pocono. They're always kind of a fixture out there. But good to see them come from the back of the field to the 39 truck field and pass a few of them there before the finish. So yeah, lots of interesting stories and good competition in general. Some surprising last place battles, maybe not so surprising ones, but a lot of positives you can kind of take from it this weekend. And that was certainly exciting to see. How many last place finishes? No tires, just gas. I see your question. How many last place finishes does Stenhouse have now? That's 10 for his career now. This is his 10th last place finish, his second this season. The other one being at Sears Point. Let's see. Barbie Crash, thank you. I'm glad you like the shirt there. Alexander Luft, what happened to Logano? Good question. He was actually looking a lot better in the both these Pocono races than I'd seen him in the last couple of weeks. You know, I mean, he hasn't really been doing terrible. I mean, he won the Bristol Dirt race, of course, but haven't seen him be as much of a contender here. But these two races, I thought he was pretty good. It showed him 10th in the results on the Sunday race at the very least. And I don't remember where he was in the Saturday race, but I think he was in the mix. He at least seemed like, I mean, it seemed like we saw more than we have in perhaps the last few of the Fox races. Let me get that cup result here. No, 7th spot in the Saturday race. So yeah, decent performance on that one. Don't know exactly what happened beyond that. I wasn't really following him that closely, but yeah. Let's see. Missed Truck Series race. Why did Haley Deegan finish so poorly? Russell Martin? Not sure on that one. Let me see. I don't remember what was happening with that with her at the finish there. So yeah, I don't really recall on that one. Let's see here. Just see the Saturday race. Start with Justin Haley. Let's see. Oh yeah, kudos over to the Superstar Racing Experience as well. I know I don't talk about that show that much on here, but our ARCA correspondent, or ARCA staff writer rather, William Saki, does articles for those. He did the first 2 rounds. It looks like we're going to keep doing that for the rest of that series here, so we'll have that posted later this week. Yeah, really enjoyed watching that over at, what was it, Eldora this week? Probably not as surprising that Tony Stewart pulled off the victory there. But those guys over there just seem like they're having tons of fun. I echo the congratulations to James Hinchcliffe in the booth there. I thought he was really exciting to see. And, of course, the short track superstar there finished in the 2nd spot there. It looked like he was actually going to have the measure of Stewart there at the finish. It didn't quite work out on that end. But real exciting to watch. I think they're just enjoyable television. Doing them on a Saturday night there during the summer is just the perfect time to do it. And a nice short series too to kind of throw it in there. It's going to be interesting. Where do they run next week? I got to look it up there again, but wherever they run next week, I'm sure it'll be a good show too. All right, Mark Allen, I see your comment there. It's been a while. Good to have you back here for sure. We'll do our trivia segment here. I don't have anything set up for show and tell this week, so maybe we'll try to come up with something further along the line here. But yeah, let's see here. Barbie Crash, I see your comment there. I guess I didn't do so well in a in a sim race. That wouldn't surprise me. I think if you just put my name on any kind of a sim car, it's not going to work out very well. So that's for sure. You put party time instead of part time. Well, I mean, I don't know. You could probably call party time part time there. Like if you're working part time, then I guess the other part, what are you doing? So that kind of works. Is IRP next week? Ooh, is it IRP or is it Slinger? I'm seeing a couple comments there. Either way, that's going to be good. I think Slinger is the final race, isn't it? I got to look up that. Yeah. One thing I thought was interesting in the Saturday race too, we had the Larson actually had more points earned than Bowman did for taking the win. And I thought they were more even in the stage performances, although Larson was, of course, looking really good at the very end of the race. But Larson actually got 45 points to the 43 points that Bowman got. So again, even with the current point system being what it is, you still have situations where you could have a last-minute reversal of fortune there and still end up with about as many points as other drivers that are ahead of you. It seemed like there were a lot of drivers that actually had 45 points if you look at the Saturday result there for similar performances. So, yeah. IRP, Slinger, and Nashville. Okay, excellent. Yeah, the National Fairgrounds, not the concrete track. They're all staying on short tracks. That's good. Okay. Yeah, if Busch ran out of fuel, Larson would have won. Probably. I mean, again, it didn't seem like he was going to spend any more time go any faster than he was. I don't know if he was just going freeway speed at the end or what, but I don't know how he was able to save 3 laps. I think that was a little bit of a sleight of hand there by the crew there, not letting on entirely what was going on. It wouldn't surprise me if they would just straight up just not tell the reporters the truth or say it on the radio there. Maybe go to Channel 2 at that point. It's all the gamesmanship that you need to do to off these wins here. And it was certainly on full display in this event for sure. All right. So yeah, wow. Did we already whistle through all those races that quickly? I guess that's true. Gosh, Deb Williams posted a picture of Kyle Busch at the interview post. He doesn't look too happy. Can't imagine why. It's a pretty convincing victory. All right. Well, okay. Well, we'll go ahead and jump into our trivia portion here. Let me get that pulled up here. All right. Yeah, all short tracks to start. That's good. I think that's a better way to go about it. All right. So, again, if you're new to the group here, the categories are NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Those are your categories there. So we'll go ahead and do a few questions here to round out the show for tonight. Go ahead and pick in the comments which ones you'd like me to do. And, of course, if you have any other questions about any of the action this weekend, feel free to mention in the comments, and we can talk about that too. So, again, NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. So we'll get a little bit of beverage here involved. Still working on a couple other things in the meantime here. One big thing I need to do is get some updates here for the Derek Cope book. I did another interview with Derek at Sears Point. I haven't integrated that in the book yet, so I need to get on that. There's a couple of things that I'm working on for later this year. There's a couple anniversaries of certain events coming up here in this next few months, and I want to kind of do some content on that. I also want to get some more content in for the $10 members of the Patreon, because I need to get that going. There's a commentary track I need to put together, and some other stuff there. So hopefully I have some more for everybody here. But basically between now and September, when we cover our next race in Las Vegas, I'm going to be kind of pulling a lot of different levers here to try to get some more stuff going. But it's always a challenge, certainly doing the articles, and especially a weekend like this where it's 2 each day. We're doing pretty good. I mean, we basically just have to post the Stenhouse one tonight, pending, of course, post-race inspection. But looking to get some more content up in the meantime. Episode 8 of Rise of the Field Fillers is still in production at the moment. That one has a lot of interview content on there, so it's probably going to be more interview than video this time around. But we'll get some content for you guys on that coming up here before too much longer. Pretty much just one foot in front of the other in the meantime. But we're coming up to the 4th of July weekend and Road America, so that's going to be pretty exciting. Let's see here. Mild card, NASCAR drivers, wild card. Yeah, wild cards are with more than one vote. Okay, we'll do wild card here for today. Right. Okay. So, hang on. Here we go. What screen star, first question of the day, what screen star helped unveil the Elvis car in Las Vegas in 1998? I'm just talking about Las Vegas. Perfect. What screen star helped unveil the Elvis car in Las Vegas in 1998? Don't look it up. Just go ahead and try to guess. We'll have that here. Still working on that Code Red sponsorship. Absolutely. Got a lot of irons in the fire for sure. It's been like I was thinking actually when I was working on the newsletter there. I just have a lot on my to-do list here that I'm trying to prioritize things so that I'm actually kind of getting them done. Hopefully by doing that, that'll free things up a little bit. Ryan Moore, I see your question about the Dale Jr. download there with Jimmy Spencer. I've watched, or I've listened to rather, part 1. I still got to do part 2. Very interesting, though. I mean, like a lot of these veteran drivers, they have such interesting histories. I still need to do the Hut Strickland one on the Scene Vault podcast. I haven't done that yet. There's a couple that I need to. I mean, I'll be doing a lot of driving this week, so I'll get some. I'm sure I'll get some traction on those. But yeah, very interesting stuff. And very interesting also to get Junior's full context there with his unwillingness to have Spencer on the show and the admittedly very hurt feelings is kind of more of I think a cursory description of it, but clearly can't really think of a good word there, but it's certainly more than that after what happened in July of 2001 and Spencer's statements at that point, given that it's 2 decades later. But kudos to Junior for bringing Spencer on board with that history there and making what's been a really entertaining interview so far. So certainly looking forward to getting the rest of the details on that. Another thing I watched recently, I watched the I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but I got to do the interview. There's a video that Stafford Speedway put out that's a full tribute to Ted Christopher. Highly recommend checking that out. They did a great job on that. It's Stafford Speedway's YouTube channel there. It's very comprehensive. I think it's like 2 hours. So lots of content in there. Spoke to a lot of the people directly involved with him, his family and his friends and everything. Definitely recommend checking it out for sure. So again, the question here was what screen star helped unveil the Elvis car in Las Vegas in 1998? I guess is for Kurt Russell and Paul Newman and Zac Efron. Man, Zac Efron was probably 5 at the time. Kurt Russell, Tina Turner, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Wayne Newton, Britney Spears. All righty. And the answer is Priscilla Presley. Priscilla Presley. So literally the family there. Wayne Newton's a good guess. That's a very good guess. All right. Was Chase Elliott's penalty last week justified? Yeah, that's a whole thing that happened after we went offline here last week. The Chase Elliott thing, very surprising. The 5 lug nuts costing him a spot. Now, what really brought that into focus was the Denny Hamlin situation at the All-Star race. The fact that he had, I guess, at least a couple that were loose and worried about a crew chief suspension even after the All-Star race. I didn't even think about it being a disqualification. Of course, in Hamlin's case, even if he did have loose lugs and had fallen to last place, it wasn't going to make any difference. But I imagine there's a difference at least in the payout. He had a decent run going in the final stage of the All-Star. I would have been curious to know if Chase Elliott was actually going to try to do what Denny did, to actually pull his car on pit road in the final couple laps and at least get those lugs not tightened. If he had 5 lugs loose, scattered across however many wheels, I don't know if it was just on 2 wheels or it certainly wasn't on one. I mean, it wouldn't have been there, but was it 2 wheels? Was it 3? Was it all? Was it all 4 even? You imagine that car would just be such a handful, you wouldn't be able to drive it and just come down pit road. So I don't know why that strategy wasn't employed. I don't know if it was, again, just not publicized enough after when Denny did it, but clearly it would have been the case in that situation because it ended up being a costly penalty that dropped him further back than he would have if he had simply come down pit road. He would have been down in the order, but he wouldn't have been in last place. There were a couple people out by that point. So, yeah. Priscilla Presley was, again, the correct answer on that one. All right, so next question here. How many top 5 finishes did Marty Robbins post in 13 years of racing? Don't look it up. Just try to guess there. How many top 5 finishes did Marty Robbins post in 13 years of racing? Gooseflat, seeing your comment asking if Denny's struggles have to do with running the race team. It's possible. It's certainly possible. Different people handle that in different ways. You kind of think of Bill Elliott in 1998 when he co-owned Jerry Nadeau's team. Elliott's performance in 98 was certainly off what it was even in 97, even though he didn't win either of those years. He was much more consistent in 97 than he was in 98. And then in 2000 afterwards, he was doing better in 94 after the 13 team wasn't around anymore. So it's possible. It's possible. And again, I don't know how they're splitting up the workload between himself and Michael Jordan. It's really hard to tell, but maybe it's not helping. I would be more persuaded of that if he didn't just have as many points as he has. That he still, I don't know if he still has more points than Larson. I imagine it's getting closer at this point. I think they were within 10 after Nashville. So, again, a difficult situation in that sense. But Denny is, it's just been bad luck all around. I think even in the first few races of the year, it seemed like he had the best car in the Daytona 500 easily. And that was at the point where I think the hype over the 23 team was, maybe not at its highest, but certainly one of the high points there, being the first race that they were coming out. So, if that was a situation, I'm not sure, but it's possible. It would be interesting to find out. I don't know if you ever asked him if he would actually admit it. I'm not sure if he would. So hard to say. How many top 5 finishes did Marty Robbins post in 13 years of racing is our question. I guess it's for 7 and 0 and 5 and 6 and 1. The answer is 1. 1 is the correct answer. 1 top 5 finish. So there you go. Yeah, Tyler Reddick, Marty Robbins throwback. That was an excellent one. That was one of the best ones from that week for sure. All righty. So, next question here. Whose answers to the press after a win at Daytona were yep, nope, and ask daddy? Whose answers to the press after a win at Daytona were, quote, yep, nope, and ask daddy? So 3 responses, not just one phrase that's a complete non sequitur. Whose answers to the press after a win at Daytona were yep, nope, and ask daddy? You got questions, answers here for Kyle Petty, Sterling Marlin, Davey Allison, Richard Petty. After a win at Daytona. Doesn't say in what. Doesn't say if it was Cup. Didn't say it was, any other division. So, yeah, it's wide open. Dale Jarrett. Yeah, who knows? All right. Okay, so here we go. Whose answers to the press after a win at Daytona were yep, nope, and Ask Daddy? The answer was Richard Petty's. Richard Petty's. So Richard Petty's. So okay, so it was a so I guess if it was Ask Daddy, I guess it was a time after I guess time that Lee was still around. It's probably one of Richard's earlier 500 wins or a 400 win. Not sure which one, but yeah, that's the answer. Well, coming up on the King's birthday, so I guess that's timely. You got one Beast of Metal? There you go. You got Richard Petty. There you go. Right on. And on the previous one here, I think, yeah, I think JD Land, I think you're the only one to guess the one for the Marty Robbins question. And then I don't think anybody got the Priscilla Presley one for the other one. Bet it's the 59 convertible race? Maybe. Oh, are we buffering? That's not good. I was kicking around the possibility of going back to the screen and screen thing to show the results in the background, so you have that going. So you're not just seeing this and that's it. Hopefully, I mean, again, it's touch and go. I don't know if that has a direct effect on the quality of the images coming across here or not. I don't know if it takes more bandwidth or not or whatever. But we'll probably give it a try on one of these future ones here. Maybe during like an off week or something during the Olympics or something. I almost said the Oscars during the Olympics. Yeah, we'll try something with that. Still playing around with this. I'd like if the show were a little less simple here, but we're in the process of figuring that out here. I actually have an intro set aside that I was going to set up for this. I should just actually use it one of these days. But I got to figure that out. That's going to be a lot of the people that do more detailed streams make it look a lot easier. All right. Are we okay? Okay, that's good. Must be on your end. I'm stable for once. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes I get the warning on here. It'll say that the stream's unstable. I haven't seen that yet tonight. Of course, knock wood. Now watch. It'll probably do it in the next 5 minutes. But yeah, it's touch and go everywhere. I'm afraid we don't have, the internet anywhere in California is kind of touch and go. Okay, next question. What year did Dale Jarrett win his second Daytona 500? What year did Dale Jarrett win his second Daytona 500? All right. So upgrade my phone to be fair. The old one is in the cracking around. They charge for it. Okay. Okay. I mean, again, if it's a situation of see, again, I'm still playing this by ear. We've done the shows basically this same way for the last couple of years. I'd kind of like to do the thing with the multiple screens again because I think that would be more engaging, and then I could actually put an intro in and have something here. Again, just give you guys more to look at here in this and all that. Although I do like the setup here. I like Mark's sign back here. So I got my NASCAR Let's Go Racing sign here, my Code Red hat on the pyramid, and then of course my mom's quilt over here. We're in the process of still looking at places for a new NASCAR headquarters, so that's still something that's kind of in the works right now. Nothing firm yet, but it could be at some point that the setup here is going to be a little different. But that's still, as far as I know, it's still pretty much in the distant future here. We still got some things kind of. That's yet another plate that I'm spinning on a stick here at this moment from one thing to the next. So we'll see. What year did Dale Jarrett win his second Daytona 500? And a lot of you got that. It was indeed 1996. The Dale and Dale Show. The other one, 1996. Matt Parsons, you were right on it. But also Charles Peterson Jr., Alexander Luff, Ultimate 23 Dragon, Glen 7000, Beast of Metal, WF Hornet. See, that one was too easy. Way too easy. Shouldn't have been in the wild card section, but it was. Alrighty, here we go. What prompted the use of extra security at tracks during the 1991 season? What prompted the use of extra security at tracks during the 1991 season? There we go. There's a little better of a question. What prompted the use of extra security at tracks during the 1991 season? It's ooh and E. Every time. What prompted the use of extra security at tracks during the 1991 season? Got the war, the Persian Gulf War. It's like all of you got it there. And, well, the specific answer it gave, of course, was by the operation name, Operation Desert Storm. So, of course, the Gulf War, the Persian Gulf War, you guys all got that one correct. I'm glad I'm not the only one that's old enough to remember that. Of course, I was 9 when that happened. Yeah, eight or 9 about that time. I think we just moved after that. So yeah, that goes way back for sure. Okay, no, not that. Let's see. Okay. What NASCAR Winston Cup driver was born in Calera, Alabama? What NASCAR Winston Cup driver was born in Calera, Alabama? RD Fox 76, you're a freshman in high school. Oh man, see, there you go. I'm so used to feeling like one of the older people here on YouTube. I forget that there's other people on that, and I'm sure there's probably somebody else in here that was probably had kids already by that point. So you never know. So who knows? It amazes me. I mean, I never noticed like how much of a generational gap there is like on YouTube until you see some videos and everybody's like, wow, this happened in 1999. What were things like back then? It's like, okay, I wasn't, sophomore in high school back then. So that was like, I remember the boy band craze and Macarena and, things like that. So I don't know. All that time is that's just a blur too. What NASCAR Winston Cup driver was born in Calera, Alabama? I guess it's Brett Strickland, Donnie Allison, Red Farmer, Donnie Allison, Neil Bonnet. The answer is Hut Strickland. Hut Strickland is indeed the correct answer. A lot of you got that one. Alexander Luft, looks like you were the first one on that. Kaz Gralla is going to be in the Xfinity race. Is he going to be in the Cup race? I don't know. Here we go. Who was the first driver to win events on 6 different super speedways? I guess they have like a different definition of super speedway here. Who was the first driver to win events on 6 different super speedways? Back when boy bands were a joke. Do you remember the song "I'll Always Love You" by Whitney Houston? Oh yeah, for sure. That's like 90. It goes back a bit further. That was like 92, 93. Well, Whitney Houston did the national anthem to Super Bowl 25, which is probably still one of the best ones, but not one of the best Super Bowls, but one of the best national anthem performances. Who was the first driver to win events on 6 different super speedways? Well, yeah, that would be the 90 season in the January of 91. So yeah, so there you go. I don't know what year The Bodyguard came out. I never saw that movie. I mean, obviously, everybody knows the song. That was a meme before memes existed. I'll tell you that. It's parodied and lampooned in so many different ways. Who was the first driver to win events at 6 different super speedways? And the answer is David Pearson. David Pearson's the correct answer. Maserati 9, you got it. Super Speedway has traditionally been defined as any track 2 miles or longer in length. Okay, well, there you go. 92 is the bodyguard. Okay, yeah, so there you go. All right. What tire changer, next question, what tire changer got to drive in a Featherlight race in 1997? What tire changer got to drive in a Featherlight race in 1997? What tire changer got to drive in a Featherlight race in 1997? Okay, we got Tom Hubert, Ace Moneymaker, Daffy Duck, Ryan Yeoman, Ted Christopher, Todd Parrott, Stroker Ace. You got answers all over the place. See, tire changers is a little bit harder of a statistic here. We're talking compared to crew chiefs or drivers or team owners. What tire changer got to drive in a Featherlight race in 1997? It must be in the Featherlight Southwest Tour. That was used to be the signature event over at Sears Point, along with the Cup Series, like late models. Or like pavement late models, but I guess, well, maybe super late models, whatever category that falls under, just like, the kind of that same style. All right. And the answer is Tom Hubert. I think a couple of you got that. Tom Hubert, Charles Peterson Jr., you got it right away. I think you're the only one to get it. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Featherlight Modifieds. I think that's it. It's kind of like what Carl Long drove, although it was the Slim Jim All Pro series. But kind of that style of car looks very similar. Okay, so we'll do one more question for tonight. A little bit of a shorter show here this evening. Last question for this evening: who performed driving stunts in the films Speedway, Six Pack, and Thunder in Carolina? Who performed driving stunts in Speedway, Six Pack, and Thunder in Carolina? Who performed driving stunts in Speedway, Six Pack, and Thunder in Carolina is the question. Okay. Yeah, I guess they didn't clue when those came out. Well, that's the tricky part too. It's kind of a two-part question in that sense. Who performed driving stunts in Speedway, Six Pack, and Thunder in Carolina? I'll give you a couple more moments here on that before we get the answer out. Last question of the evening. Do we have technical inspection results yet? Probably not. Okay. No, I don't see. Whoop, hang on. No, I don't see one on Pocris's page here yet, at least not yet. For those of you that maybe were newer to hearing about Ryan Vargas or saw other ways to help out his program, he actually has some really cool T-shirt designs on his channel there too. So definitely look those up there if you're interested. The Rhino Gang is ever growing for sure, and I certainly saw that from the response to the interview earlier today. Question again: who performed driving stunts in Speedway, Six Pack, and Thunder in Carolina? And the answer is Neil Soapy Castles. Neil Castles. I think Maserati 9. I think you got that. Yes, you did. Good on you. Do we have that one before? Maybe we did. I don't know. Say it was during Tiny Lund during his lifetime suspension. Yeah, you never know. Or if you mean Curtis Turner. Yeah, Neil Castles. Yeah, driver of the 06 car. Actually, a car that Dale Earnhardt drove at one point. If you ever look at paint schemes, they don't do a throwback of them too often, but it's like a white car with red numbers on a Dodge Daytona. I think it was a Dodge Daytona, not a Plymouth Superbird. Very simple and clean paint scheme. One of those other owner drivers that made several starts, never won a race, but ended up being involved in the sport in such a way that he could help launch other careers and, was one of those kind of competitors. And ended up having that role in those films at the same time there. So, yeah. I don't know what happened with the TikTok deal. I haven't asked about that or anything. So I don't know if there's any other information on that, but hopefully something else works out there because Vargas certainly worked overtime to promote them back when they were sponsoring him, but we'll find out there. So in the meantime, thank you again so much, everyone, for tuning in. Again, our next show is going to be next week after the Road America Cup Series race on 4th of July weekend. Have a great week coming up here and a great 4th of July weekend, of course, leading into that. We'll be back here to talk about the action for NASCAR's Xfinity Series returning to Road America, but of course the Cup Series making their first race at Road America in much longer than that. But should be a really entertaining event there. I think that's a road course that's certainly got some interesting aspects to it, and it'll be exciting to see these particular cars compete around there. So we'll talk about that. In the meantime, the website is lastcar.info. The Patreon for bonus content is patreon.com/lastcaronbrock. And the Twitter account is @lastcaronbrock. And again, we'll see you next week. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in.